welcome back to another episode of the Championship Penitentiary. In what has been a massive week at both ends of the table, I am joined by people involved at those ends. Joining us for a short but sweet time, we have Enzo. How are you, Enzo?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Aye. Good to be back. It's been a few weeks. I can't actually remember what the last episode I was on was, but it's nice to be back with some positivity and some negativity, I suppose. But we'll focus on the positivity around Queen's Park.
Aye, and joining me as usual, it's Kieran Ashton. Kieran, how are you?
I'm all right. I think before like an hour, if we started this pod, I would have been quite happy. But now I'm in mourning at the sudden loss of a great Thistle legend, Stevie Lawless, as he leaves mutually for the club. So I a bit hurt by that, but not hurt, but a bit gutted. You know what I mean? But I nonetheless delighted to be back on.
Aye, recording this on transfer deadline day when there's going to be like many things that happen that we just have no idea until we finish this, and it's like, oh god, that changes everything. but aye, so to kick us off, a quick roundup of the Challenge Cup. There was a storm on that day, so once again there were a couple of postponements. And Johnston versus Ayr got postponed. That's being played on this Saturday, and Arbroath against Airdrie is being played on the Tuesday. The two games that did go ahead, however, Inverness managed to get a 1-0 win against Sinnersmuir, and the game that was live on Premier Sports and the game that I was fully convinced was being called off was Queen's Park against Rafe. We were both at that game, and I felt like the scoreline fairly reflects it, and it was just a case of penalties. It is what it is. Enzo, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to dwell on this too much. Nobody's tuning in to listen to us talk about the Challenge Cup. I don't think realistically. I think the first half, Wraith were on top. Then I think in the second half we really grew into it. So yeah, I mean, I would probably agree that you could make a case for a draw over the 90 minutes being a fair result. Some pretty horrifyingly shocking penalties from us, though, which was really disappointing considering we'd also lost on penalties the week prior down in Stranraer. And I thought, right, at least they'll have been practicing them, they'll be prepared for it. And even down in Stranraer, we did score our first 5 penalties. It's sudden death that put us out. I was going to say put us out of that cup. It did technically put us out of that cup, but that's a separate conversation as well. But I assumed we would have been ready to step up and maybe do something similar against Wraith. That wasn't to be the case. We scored 1 penalty, and 3 of the 3 that we missed, 1 hit the post, and the other 2 were just absolutely rubbish, far too easy for Josh Ray. So there we go. That's us out of that cup. Which, in a roundabout way, I'm not going to lie. Obviously, there's a financial element of it where I think it's like a guaranteed extra 25 grand for getting to the semi final. But the last thing we need is more games right now. So I can't say I'm all that fussed.
Yeah, I was going to say you got like this. You had like this run of 6 games in 3 weeks, or
That's right. Yeah,
maybe more than that. But
yeah, it's about that. Aye.
But so I mean, for Rafe, it's like we're out the Scottish Cup, so this is good this is fine for us. We're into the semi-finals. We'll play whoever wins the Arbroath Airdrie game away from home. So I am very much hopeful that is Arbroath, because our record against Airdrie is absolutely diabolical. So we move on. That's the Challenge Cup done. So we move on to the big one. It is Friday nights under the lights, and it is Partick Thistle versus St Johnstone at McDiarmid Park on BBC Scotland. As said, the top of the table clash. Both sides coming in on rocky-ish form, but. And it's like, having seen the conditions of that pitch, that was we knew it was going to be interesting. Kieran, you were at the game, and your team's involved, so take us away.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. I mean, I think going into the game, I think a small part of me thought we were going to do something. But I mean, our away record kind of speaks for itself. And again, I think I've said it to death on here. But the last time we won away in the league was, I think it was end of September, beginning of October, away to Queen's Park midweek. So that was a worry getting into it. But I mean, looking at the starting lineup, we dropped Chalmers and Fitzy straight to the bench. And looking at it, I was like, why has he done that? But kind of thinking of it, it was to kind of suit the conditions, adapted to suit the McDiarmid Park conditions, because there was no way you could play football in that. You could not play with wingers in that. We had to play a bit more compact. And I thought we started off pretty well. Samuel had the first chance of the game, just at the side netting. But I think majority of the first half he was on the back foot. I think St Johnstone came out the traps as you expect for the home side. But I thought we defended well. I thought we won our second ball pretty much every time, won every kind of duel well. And then, of course, we obviously had chances of our own in the first half as well. St Johnstone came pretty close. Clark dealt with them well. Watt tested the keeper. I think Crawford kind of came quite close. But obviously the St Johnstone defender kind of got to that at the last minute and kind of blocked it well. But then right on half time we would take the lead through Tony Watt. It was a lovely counter attack. Came for a St Johnstone corner. Macbeth headed it clear, and then Watt just took it away for, I think it was McAleer on the edge of their box. And then just ran, made it a one-on-one with Jason Holt, who I think tried to rugby tackle Watt. So if it wasn't a goal, it definitely would have been probably a penalty and even a red card, considering it would have been last man. But he then managed to position himself well, squares it for Ocean Smith, who's just come back on loan for St Mirren. And he sorts it away. Smith sorts it easily past Toby Stewart to give us the lead. And I felt while we kind of, it was a you can say it was definitely on a counter attack. It was definitely against the run of play, but I thought we'd done well enough to deserve the lead. It was right on half time as well, probably the best time to score. In a game of that magnitude. And aye, half time comes just literally straight after we take the lead, and I was thinking to myself, right, if we kind of we're doing well defensively, if we kind of hold them off for like 15 minutes into the first half, kind of frustrate them and that, we could probably go on and win it. Literally, I think it was like not even a minute after half time, St Johnstone grabbed the equaliser through Agyeman. It was a deflection off O'Reilly. And it just goes past Josh Clark, which is a bit really unfortunate, considering I thought Clark played really well on Friday night. But then since then, I think St Johnstone could have scored as much as they wanted until they went 2-1 up. It was back to all defending after equaliser. I think Agyeman and Forrester came close as well. They just piled the pressure on us. McPake would then score in the 65th minute through, albeit I think it was a good goal, but I think we've got to be dealing with that better. Again, like McPake, he's a constant thorn on our side. We know what he's going to do, and we still let him do it. It's a cut inside for the right hand side, right on his right foot, and we just let him do it. We don't go through him. We don't kind of take a challenge. I think if we go through him, mind you, it's either a penalty or whatever. It's a free kick, but we've got to kind of take that risk. We can't let him, show him like we just show him on his right foot every time. But regardless, I think it was still a good goal. So maybe being a bit too harsh in the defence there. But then I think as well, like, despite how well we did play and how well we defended, I think it was deserved that they got the lead. And then we put on Chalmers and Fraser Taylor, who was signed on loan for St Mirren as well. And I think they gave us another dynamic, kind of changed the game a bit for us, gave us a bit more, gave us width that we were lacking. In the first half, Chalmers had a chance. I think it was just blocked. I don't know, it might have been Mikulic, I'm not entirely sure. But it looked like it was going in. It was a Cullen shot just after St Johnstone took the lead. Taylor looked really calm on the ball as well. Thought he looked promising on his debut. Look forward to seeing him more in official shirt. But we kind of had chances with a penalty shout as well, which I thought was a more a penalty than we'll obviously go on to it, that was actually given. O'Reilly was bundled in the box as well, but that wasn't given. And I was kind of preparing myself for going 5 points behind with St Johnstone's game in hand, but last kick of the ball, Samuel is bundled over. It was a lovely flick on for Ashcroft for the ball into the box of Samuel, who's then bundled over by Diabate. And I think it was I don't know if there's any really disagreements. I don't know about yous, but I think it was a penalty. At first, I thought it was quite soft, but when you look back on it, I mean, St Johnstone fans don't appeal it, to be honest. So, aye, we get the penalty last minute, last kick of the ball, and Smith, who we've had our own kind of penalty woes as of late. If Smith goes on to miss the penalty, it goes on. I think that's our worst penalty feat back to back since like March 2000 when we missed four. I think that would have been our. I think it would have went to equal that record, but thankfully Smith converts it past Toby Stewart and gives us a bit of a lifeline. To be honest, I mean at the start of before the game, I wasn't taking a draw. I wanted to win, but I think that's just me being a bit greedy and a bit selfish. But circumstances permitting, I mean, I'll certainly take a draw now. It keeps us in it, and I think over the piece we did deserve the draw. But there was times where in the game we could have been overturned, and we kept in it, and we kept fighting. And I'll certainly take that. I thought it was a really good performance as well.
So in regards to that penalty, it is one where it is soft, but it's really, really stupid.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
it's one of those really stupid fouls that you just don't do.
Yeah.
And, it's like, Cal's obviously not here to shout at us today, but his words when that penalty got given, he was not kind at all. He was not kind at all about the players.
But you felt like something was coming. Like the final 10
Yeah.
minutes of the game, St Johnstone were almost like it was almost as if they were trying to give Thistle opportunities to score. Like they
Yeah.
looked really kind of shaky, and I'd have been surprised if that had finished 2-1. To be honest with you. And I think it was a penalty. And I think actually after the game, Valakari himself said when he was being interviewed, he agreed with the penalty decision because it was ultimately just really, really daft defending. You can't be doing that. I mean, it's arguably your biggest game of the season so far. You've got the opportunity to put a wee bit more space between you and your kind of title rivals, and you go and do something like that. I'd be pretty raging if I were a St Johnstone fan as well. It was. I can understand why they probably were furious. I know Cal was. I don't think he was the only one.
No, I don't blame him. As you said, as both of you said, it's just stupidity, and I think that was the first kind of words that left my mouth. But as well as that, when he was given a penalty, I was like, "Oh God, we're going to miss this," because just how shite our penalties have been in the last three games. But thankfully, we managed to dismiss it, and I mean, there was kind of critics of Smith's, kind of performance from August to November, and when he got let alone, when he got the call, sorry, by St Mirren, there was kind of. I mean, well, it's not really a big loss, but he's been fantastic since he's come back, and that's a class that's shown. I mean, massive game, and he sorts it away, with ease, pretty much with relative ease. So, it makes things certainly interesting at the top of the table, for sure. And we've got them at Firhill, I think, about March time as well. So, certainly take that point. You know what I mean? 100%.
I think just one thing that I want to highlight, and obviously he's been talked about a little bit on this podcast before. But when he was signed, it was a bit of a kind of willy, won't he? But I thought Tony Watt was phenomenal on Friday.
Oh yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. I think
and
that's probably his. Sorry, Enzo, on you go.
No. I mean, that was probably his best goal contributions. Is that goal against Barcelona for Celtic all those years ago? To be honest with you, so yeah, no, it was he was really, really good. I think when Thistle signed him, my words were he'll either be class for them or they'll be regretting that contract a month and a half into it. And it's probably not been on either extreme, but he's doing, he more than merits his space in the starting 11, and he has contributed. So fair play to him, because he looks pretty settled, and he hasn't looked settled probably since his time at Motherwell, I suppose I would say.
Yeah.
When he probably mistakenly left chasing a bit of cash.
I know. I like what you said there, Enzo. I think he was fantastic Friday. Probably, arguably, the best I've seen. What in a official shirt. That goal was fantastic. That's, I think, come the end of the season, we goal of the season contender without a doubt. I think it's just the way he ran it, the way he stole it off McAleer to start with, and then as a striker, you think you're going to be greedy and just take the keeper on and go for a shot, but you see Smith running into the box, and he's been very unselfish there to give us the lead.
Which again is probably not a word people would generally associate with Tony Watt.
No, absolutely not.
So in regards to the title challenge, meanwhile, like you say, it keeps it at 2 points, but of course, St Johnstone still have that game in hand. Like you say, that game in March, it's like if it's still close, win it for Hill, who knows what this next month will bring up. So, it's a massive point getting that right at the very end. But I still feeling optimistic in regards to it.
Callum, we've already won the league. You know what I mean? It's all right.
I think. Yes, Cal.
Aye.
I think.
Aye. But I don't know. I think St Johnstone's squad's far too strong to not win it. I think for me, I'm just taking it game by game, trying to not get ahead of myself, so to speak. It's hard not to when we're in a position we're in, but because I mean, there's no qualms about it. They are probably the strongest side, but listen, we're still in there, so may as well enjoy it while we can and kind of take it as it comes.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that they've strengthened in January, which is obviously problematic from a Thistle point of view. And I'm not saying that Thistle haven't, but they've done some really good business this month.
Definitely.
Some of which in particular really irritates me. But I can't see past them. I think if Thistle can keep it tight for as long as possible, then they'll be doing well. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, because what it really comes down to, I think, is trying to keep it within a reasonable sort of distance by the next time that you play against them. That's what's that's the big factor.
Definitely.
And I wouldn't put it past them to go on a wee dodgy run of 2 or 3 games. That happens to everybody at some point.
It's like St Johnstone have had a couple runs this season already like that, where they just like underperform for a good few games. Actually, like not too long ago, they were in that sort of rut. But
as well as us, Callum, sorry, we were in a bit of a rut as well in the league. I think we were like 5 games without a win or something like that before our win at home to Morton. So, I mean, teams are prone to do that, but I just, as Enzo says, even as a Thistle man who says I want their arse to crumble and we go into Storm and run away, 10 points ahead, I just think the squad's far too good, and I think Ball carries him out. I know he's been under fire this season by a few St Johnstone fans, especially when they've been in that rut, but I think he will get a grip of them eventually. And but listen, we're still in it, so don't count us out as of yet. You know what I
mean? If it does keep tight, it will be interesting to see how Thistle do in the playoffs. We know what Thistle are like in the playoffs, but it's like
that's a bad word on this podcast, Cal.
But with how the bottom two are in the Premiership this season, it's like this is a real opportunity for probably the first time ever for back-to-back 2 teams getting promoted out of the Championship. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season pans out for both sides. Meanwhile, onto the Saturday games. I'm going to start off with Queen's Park against Arbroath, just to allow Enzo his moment in the spotlight. So Queen's Park, meanwhile, they're coming off of back-to-back defeats against Rafe. Arbroath coming off a draw against Morton, and of course, Enzo, you're at this game, so I'll let you take us away.
Yeah, well, obviously the big news going into this was on the Friday prior to it. We did lose. Was it the Thursday actually? Friday morning, Thursday evening.
It was a Thursday.
I think it was Thursday night. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did lose Josh Fowler to St Johnstone. Not entirely sure the kind of fee involved and stuff like that. By all accounts, we tried to hold on to him. We offered him a wee pay increase to see out at the end of the season. But he was keen to move, and I don't think Sean Crichton wanted to hold somebody here against his will. So I mean, I can understand that. I can also see the argument for saying, well, no, you're staying, you're under contract, and you can figure it out yourself afterwards. But here we are. And the concern is across all competitions. I think we'd scored 38 goals this season until Saturday, and Fowler had scored 19 of those, so exactly 50%. So he scored exactly half of our goals all season. So that was obviously a big worry. Now we'd obviously signed Callum Smith, who I think has had spells in his career where he has looked really, really good. When he was at Airdrie, he was scoring plenty of goals. Seb draws over the past kind of 4 to 6 weeks had started to pick up a wee bit. And I actually went into this game with a weird sense of optimism. I have no idea why. Everybody else around me was going, we're going to get hammered. We're going to get hammered. And I said, even before the game, I fancied us. And that optimism was drained out of me when Arbroath took their 1-0 lead. So one of the biggest complaints I've had this season is how easy we are to get around in the middle of the park. You can just pretend that we don't have a midfield and you will bypass us and potentially score a lot of goals. Wraith did the same thing last week when we visited Starks Park. And I did fear that it was going to be one of those days when Arbroath kind of cut us open, played it out wide. Pignatello, who's been great for us this season and actually had a really good game the rest of Saturday, was beaten a little bit too easy. Ball was put in. Ball was put into the middle, and Robinson just tapped in at the back of the post. Wasn't good defending. I was really disappointed, and I feared the worst. I thought it was going to be one of those days where we ended up actually going out and losing 3 or 4-0. But within 10 minutes, we'd managed to bring ourselves back into the game, which I think was important. You need to get something like that prior to half time. I think that can kind of help keep the heads up a wee bit. So Henry Fieldson puts a ball into the box. Grant Savoury kind of knocks it down towards the far post, and Aidan Conley gets on the end of it just to knock it into the back of the net, make sure it goes in, which was great because we're gonna, without Josh Fowler, we're gonna have to start seeing guys like Aidan Conley contribute more when it comes to actually finding the back of the net. And luckily that was to be the case on Saturday. And it didn't take long after that actually for us to take a 2-1 lead. So never mind keeping it at 1 each at half time. We kind of cut open Grant Savoury sort of cuts open on Arbroath pass in the middle of the park, passes it to Seb Draws, gets past, I think it was Tom Lang was the Arbroath defender just in on loan from Falkirk, and Seb Draws runs half the length of the park, gets inside the box and just kind of dinks it over the goalkeeper. It was a beautiful finish. And one thing that I am quite excited about, to be fair, is that Seb Draws in recent, like I said, kind of the past 4 to 6 weeks has been our best player, and he's not going anywhere. And he's got Ibrox coming up, a place where he likes to score goals. So no, he's going to be really, really important for us for the remainder of the season as well. I do sort of wonder if it's one of those, you sometimes see it where you lose a player your entire game plan revolves around, and it just forces you to try something else, and maybe that new thing clicks. I don't know, because Arbroath, despite the fact that we then hung on for the 2-1 victory, Arbroath did probably have more of the ball, probably have more chances. Thought Ryan Dow had an excellent game. He put in dangerous crosses all day. They just couldn't get on the end of them. They were totally lacking in any cutting edge when it came to it. And it's a huge win for us, especially with Ross County losing. Airdrie winning wasn't ideal. And it's a missed opportunity for Arbroath, by the way. Like with St Johnstone and Partick Thistle drawn on the Friday night, they'll see that as a missed opportunity. And while I do think they'll finish in the top 4, they're not like, if I were a St Johnstone, if I were an Arbroath fan, I would potentially be starting to get a little bit concerned that some teams are sort of starting to suss them out a bit. I mean, the whole game plan seems to revolve around, I mean, anytime I've seen them anyway, sitting deep, breaking good balls and kind of taking advantage of that. But they've lost a few games recently that maybe people didn't necessarily expect them to. And if they're not careful, that could, that could kind of snowball a little bit. But no, absolutely delighted with that. Interestingly, the last, like you said, you haven't won an away game since that game against us in September. We haven't lost a league game at home since that same game. And that's going to be vital. What we need to do, though, is a lot of them have been draws. We need to start capitalising on that and turning them into wins. And we've got another game tomorrow night against Ross County when they visit. And I have to say, I'm not entirely convinced that that's not winnable, because I watched, and we'll come on to talk about their game, but I'm not sure they've got much going on other than what was initially a decent wee manager's bounce. But we'll see. However, I would describe myself as slightly rejuvenated after the news of Josh Fowler leaving. I don't believe survival is impossible, which was my initial concern. So here we are.
So that very much was a big question after his sale. Like you say, he scored exactly half of Queen's Park's goals in all competitions this season, and of course he'll have many more assists. And like you say, you got Seb Draws, who was he scored against us last Saturday. And
that was a good goal as well.
It was a very good goal from him, and of course he got the assist in a fairly similar manner on the Tuesday. So you do have someone there. It does beg the question. It's like we had this sort of question with Brian Graham's departure from Thistle in the summer, where it's a case of does having someone who scores over half of the goals or whatever, and like if they disappear, that's suddenly brings up a whole bunch of other players because they don't feel like this sort of burden or like this expectation where it's like you have to give it to him if you want to score, that whole sort of thing.
Yeah.
So do you see something like that happening?
I mean, I hope so. I also thought, by the way, Callum Smith was fantastic on Saturday as well. He put in a really, really good shift. He worked really, really hard. He hassled the Arbroath defence all day. Obviously, he didn't score, but he was heavily involved in the good things that we did. The only slight concern is I thought he looked absolutely knackered come the end, but I suspect that's probably just because he hasn't played a huge amount of football so far this season.
He came back from injuries. Trying to think, he made his return at the big. I want to say like end of November, beginning of December time. You know, it's like he's not really had a preseason, so
yeah,
I just be a case of fitness.
We'll see how we get on. And obviously, we today announced that we've signed Todorov as well, who is a player that he's not going to score you loads and loads of goals. But I think one of the issues that we have had, if I'm being critical of our forward line, is that they're not physical enough, not big enough, and that is exactly what Todorov offers. So if he can get in there and cause a bit of chaos among defences as an option off the bench, or whether he makes his way into the starting 11 eventually, I don't know. But I'm happy enough to take that, especially when you've got County and their signing being Ekpezu, so it could be worse. I think we'll see.
And of course, there is that game against Ross County that's happening on Tuesday. Like you say, you've got your home form, and it's massive. It's the two teams at the bottom end of the table with these results this weekend. Ross County lost away to Morton. That's put them back at the bottom of the table. We'll get onto them in a bit later on, but so I'm gonna guess you've got some optimism going into that, all things considered.
Cautiously optimistic. I mean, if we were to beat them tomorrow, we would leapfrog Airdrie as well. I think we would only be 2 points behind Morton with a game in hand, 3 points behind Wraith with 2 games in hand. So I know it's a little bit bleak looking in a lot of ways, but if something can click, if you can find a bit of form, now's the right time to do it, and you never know.
I was going to say, so you were saying in the group chat earlier about how if you do win, then across the last 6 games, you'd have earned the second most amount of points.
It's this, it would be the same as St Johnstone, the same number as St Johnstone over the last 6 games. So, but we'll discuss that if and when it occurs.
If and when it happens, just like imagine saying that low at any point this season, just being like, "Oh yeah, there'll be a point where Queens Park are the second most informed team in the league."
Yeah, I know, and it's ridiculous actually because we've had so many games called off. Those 6 games stretch right back to like November or something like that.
It's like that, and of course you did mention earlier with Arbroath, like the missed opportunity. I mean, myself and Kieran said this last week with their draw. It's like if they'd won their last 2 games, which are games that we really expected going into them, Arbroath to get a result. That's another 5 points. They would be on 42 points. They'd be 2 points behind Thistle. They'd be well in. They'd be in this. They'd be in this sort of title fight. But it's like they've only got 1 win in 5, which is possibly their worst run of form across the season.
Oh, it has to be. Yeah, it has to be.
I think it is. Yeah.
And the concern, I suppose, is if they do go on a wee bit of a run, if Dunfermline, I know obviously we'll come on to talk about the Dunfermline game, but Dunfermline, Wraith, whoever else pick up a bit of form. I mean, I think Arbroath probably are good for the top 4, barring a complete catastrophic collapse. But that's not off the table. It can happen to anybody at any time. And I think at this stage, I know that Arbroath fans will probably tell you that they're just happy to stay up. But I think if they weren't to finish in the top 4 now, they'd be really disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
They've been miles clear of this sort of middle 3 group for basically the entire season. There's always been at least a 5-point gap since I'd want to say October.
Must be, yeah.
It's been, and like you say, it is just a case of if that is to go away, it's more than likely down to Arbroath completely collapsing because the 3 of us have just been hilariously inconsistent. But it is interesting to see how that will pan out. So speaking of hilariously inconsistent and the middle three, Air against Reef is what we've got coming up next, and I was like, I made a trip down to Somerset last week. They were beaten by Partick Thistle, whilst we, of course, managed to flunk Queen's Park. This was not a good game, and I'm not just saying that because Rafe lost. It just was poor. It was two poor sides going at it, really. It's like first half, it's Air managed to take the lead basically by accident, like half an hour in. Ben Dempsey's free kick from basically where the dugouts are just went over everyone and just sort of fell into the back of the net. It's one of those ridiculous goals that you see from time to time. It's like I'm stood in the terracing at the side. And I just watched the ball just like float over everyone and like hit the back of the net, and I'm just stood there, just like that happened. did we really concede a goal like that? But it was just ridiculous to have that happen. But after that point, it was mostly Rafe, and the only other real opportunity from that first half is Jack Hamilton hitting it first time playing into the box, but it's pushed away by the goalkeeper. I think his name's Max Thompson. I've got his name down as Thompson. That's what his name is. I can't remember what his first name is. But fun fact about him, he is Scott Brown's 8th goalkeeper. He's been at Air for 2 years.
It's a bit much, isn't it? I mean, it's just, we've talked about this before as well, but I don't understand. Like, it's just you make one mistake in the goals, and he just loses all confidence in you straight away. I mean, I think we've had the same goalkeeper for about 4 years now, or something like that. And it's one of these positions that I think a lot of teams do tend to have a bit of consistency with, and I think it's one of the positions that you need a bit of consistency with as well, given the role that they have and kind of organising your whole team at the back. And I'm not sure what the thought process is there, really. I guess he's got the money to do it, so he thinks, well, why not? I'll give somebody else another crack. But I don't think you're going to get anywhere that way. I think you need to give somebody a real run in the team, and he has done at times. But then he's quick to swap them out on a bit of a whim. So it's a really, really strange situation. He just seems to hate goalkeepers.
I was going to say, it's like last season they had like some 18-year-old come in for a couple of games, and it's like we thought he was really good, and then he's just I've never not seen him since. And it's like Christ, pet shop hamsters have a greater life expectancy than their United goalkeepers at this rate. It's like, where have they gone? where have you sent them? Are they underneath the tarmac of the new training centre behind the railway end? Well, who knows? But second half was definitely where the action happens. So Air would manage to get a second just before the hour mark with Anton Dowds, who just on the counter just hit right into the bottom right corner. But before that, Rafe almost got an equaliser, basically from kickoff, but like a pass back to the goalkeepers hit waywardly. Josh Mullen does get to it, but it's one of those where it's just he gets to it, but it's too close to the goalkeeper, and it's just a case of there's not really much aim that you can do that isn't the goalkeeper. So I get it's a real missed opportunity, really, but don't really blame Mullen for missing that. But so once it hit 2-0 for Air, they did nothing. They really did nothing after that. Thompson would make a really good save from Ewan Wilson, who was played through edge of the just inside the box. Really powerful hit, but I have to say Thompson manages to parry it over, and then there'd be a couple free headers. Jack Hamilton would get one, but that would be saved if I remember correctly. And then Enzo would get one with a real amount of power, but it just goes over the bar. But we'd finally get a goal through Lewis Vaughan. Lewis Vaughan came on in that about the hour mark as well, and cross ball from Doherty just finds him unmarked, making a run into the box, and it's good to get a bit of hope. It was our first away goal in the league since the 8th of November, and it's like we're
Against
on
us?
about. I think it was. It must be.
Jesus.
I think it's like under. I think our record before this one. I think under Emery we've had like 4-0 in a row.
Yeah. Bloody hell.
So I was like, I
What's the,
can't.
I mean, what's the issue? Is it because I mean, looking at Wraith's team, I suppose the concern is it just a lack of real target man up front. Is that what it comes down to from your from your perspective, or do you think there's more to it than that? Obviously, like Vaughan's had his injuries as well again. Hamilton he had that good game against us a couple of weeks ago, but I also think it's fair to say that we were shocking that day, which is a factor. What's the problem? Where's the issue right now? Because he signed a striker today.
I was going to say, is like we signed Innes Cameron on loan from Barrow today, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. But yeah, we just can't put the ball in the back of the net for whatever reason. It's like we seem to. It's like when we do score goals, it tends to be in games where it's like the floodgates just open. Like the 6-0 against Ross County is a prime example of that.
Yeah,
because like we might have, I think, in like the whole month of December, we scored 8 goals, and 6 of them were against County, or at least that's probably what it feels like. It's just, I don't know. It's like with Vaughan being back and his contributions since he's been back, it's like he's looked really good when he's been on the pitch. So I'm hopeful that it does see some sort of turnaround in actually being able to score goals along with his Cameron. But it's just, I'm not sure if it's just lack of confidence because it's like that Hamilton chance in the first half. It's like he more or less just passes it. It's like he passes it into the bottom, tries to pass it into the bottom corner when it's like you need a bit of power on it. That whole sort of thing. It's like I just don't know. I just really don't know. But
yeah, Cameron's a big lad, but he's not got much of a track record for scoring loads of goals. But I mean, sometimes it just clicks in the right kind of setup for somebody. Quite incredible how many guys make careers out of being strikers that don't score goals in the Scottish lower leagues, man. It's just such an incredibly difficult thing to find. And from Wraith's perspective, this guy comes in and scores 5 or 6 by the end of the season. He's probably done a really good job. That's just the reality of bringing guys like that in.
It's a story of a refill of a striker, honestly. Like we have a shocking record with strikers. But it's like after Vaughan gets his goal, it's like we were basically camped in Ayers half.
Yeah.
Really, as Vaughan would have another free header from like 6 yards out, but unfortunately it went straight into the hands of Thompson. And honestly, if that goes anywhere else, that's in. I feel that way. And then again, it's like Vaughan would another like cross would come across goal. Vaughan would be at the front post. He gets like a touch on it, and it just goes wide. And then there is a few more chances, a couple more corners, but I would just fail to get a second, and it's just really annoying. It's really annoying just seeing how wasteful we have been again, and it's been the story of our season. And it also doesn't help that once again we looked good once we've been 2-0 down. It was like that against Arbroath a couple of weeks ago, and same with Dunfermline. It's just really annoying, how many times it takes until whatever. I don't know anymore. I'm just giving up. I said after the Arbroath loss that I didn't think playoffs were on. After the Queen's Park game, it gave me that sort of hope. But it's just like, okay, maybe we can do something. And now I'm just like, no. We've lost away to this Ayr side. Like Ayer's third home victory of the season.
What I will say is that there will be at least one team who makes the playoffs this year who isn't very good, and they might be in for a bit of a kind of, I don't know, a bit of a reality
reality
check.
check kind of thing.
Yeah, potentially, and because I mean, I wouldn't want to bet on who that fourth place team is going to be right now. I do think the top three is probably going to stay the same unless something really drastic happens to both. But I would not be surprised if, let's say, Ayr or let's say Dunfermline sneak into fourth place. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up getting a wee bit embarrassed in the playoffs one way or another. I guess we'll find out. There's times for teams to the playoffs are such a funny beast though that if you sneak in on the right form, that anything can happen. So
I honestly think the playoffs should just like cancel the quarterfinals. Like none of us deserve it. None of us
or
in
yeah,
the midfield deserve that fourth place.
yeah.
Honestly,
Definitely.
it's been terrible.
I think that was the kind of consensus. I was getting on Twitter for Rafe fans at full time. It's pretty much just finish the season now kind of thing. They're kind of giving up on it.
But
It's just
you say
sorry,
that,
Enzo.
right?
On you go.
No, I was just going to very quickly say you say that, right? But I mean, Wraith aren't a million miles off the bottom of the team. Like, see if
Mhm.
again, if things were to kind of go badly from here on out, Wraith aren't a million miles off finding themselves in a battle potentially for ninth place as well. So you know, it's all well and good to say, "Oh, we're probably not going to finish in the top half of the season, so just forget about it." But you need to make sure you're at least picking up enough points to steer clear of the bottom two.
Yeah,
That's basically where I'm at. I'm just like, just don't get dragged into
the
the
dogfight. Aye.
dregs
Yeah,
and
Mhm.
get a Challenge Cup win, and that'll be fine.
yeah. Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Definitely.
At this point, I'm just like, just focus on the Challenge Cup. I just want something to be happy about. But
I think for me personally, for the playoff spots, I think it's now between Ayr and Dunfermline personally. But I mean, both of them are far too inconsistent. I would not be surprised if Rafe find himself back in it and Callum's on
that's
here
the
thinking
worst
they're going up.
part.
You know what I mean? But I mean, I don't know. It's one of the ones. It is a bit of a sickener for Wraith considering how poor Ayr have been at home. And with other results kind of happening as well around the table. But I think Enzo's kind of spot on. I think you can't really get too far away because you can't get too carried away, sort of, because you might go, oh, that's it done then, but keep losing games. There's teams right on your tail. You know what I mean? That could drag you right back down into that dogfight. So I don't think by any means necessary. I think you'll be seeing Wraith in the relegation playoffs or
No,
whatever.
neither do I. Definitely
Um,
not. But
but I mean, it's a good point you raise. It's a good point you raise, Enzo. That getting too carried away about missing playoffs and whatever, you could kind of find yourself in a bit of trouble down the bottom end.
I was like, monkey's paw. I want Rafe in the playoffs. It's like
exactly.
never mentioned which one. I should say though, it's like when it does come to Air United's poor home form, Rafe away just is bad. The only two teams with a worse record away has been Queens Park and Ross County, and even then they've got a couple of games in hand still on when it comes to the away table. So yeah, it really is just don't get involved in the relegation scrap, and I'll be fine with it. But like you say, we've been just. It's like the middle three have just been so ridiculously inconsistent. There's a reason why it's like my mood about potential top four, that fourth place, just changes every week. Is because you'll get weeks like this, and then whoever we play next, we might end up beating, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hold on, we're only a point off a fourth again. It's on, we're back. It's just
Such is
ridiculous.
the life of a very fickle football fan.
Yep.
That's the nature of it. That's what happens. Oh no, we're
Yeah.
fucked. Oh no, we're back. Make up your
Is
mind. You
that
can't make up
graph?
your mind.
Is that graph where it's like we're so back, it's so over, it's so back? Is that?
It's accurate. It's accurate.
But that's just is what it is. Um, Right, so moving on then, another big game towards the bottom end of the table. It's Morton at home to Ross County. Morton themselves winless since beating Queen's Park all the way at the beginning of December. Ross County, meanwhile, coming off of back-to-back wins for the first time in about 11 months. This was probably a better game than the Wraith game, judging by the highlights. But the first big chance would fall to Jay Henderson, who, with a really nice really nice first touch, would flick the ball past the last defender of it at the halfway line, and he'd be running through 1-on-1. But James Storer making a really big save to deny County getting an early lead. But Morton, they would get the lead 20 minutes in. Eamon Brophy managing to poke home after Ross County just failed to clear the ball. It just sort of falls on the line and it's sort of like nicked away by a County defender, but it just falls straight to Brophy. Just puts it in the back of the net. 20 minutes in. Brophy himself almost got a second not long after. Hits a bar from the edge of the box. And second half, Morton again, the better team, although County do come close from a corner. But Michael Halloran in the 67th minute would double Morton's lead. He was just unmarked in the box, manages to tuck that one home. And then after that, there wasn't really much to talk about aside from Ross County getting a goal back through Iacoviti. But Morton would manage to hold on to win. And it's their first win under Ian Murray. So be interesting to see how they bounce off of that one. If this is finally time for the new manager bounce, especially when you consider how it started with a draw and then that 4-0 loss against Stenhousemuir. Ross County, meanwhile, after back-to-back wins, they now return to the bottom of the table. Kieran, your thoughts on both teams?
Well, on the game itself, I think Morton probably could have had a lot more than two. I think they had the post, for example, as you said, on the first half. I don't think County looked that good at all, to be honest. I think they looked very poor, and especially when you see for it isn't Morton's second goal, the Morton players just left like in the middle of the box unmarked, and he's able to slot it away. I think that result was huge for Morton, absolutely massive for Morton. I think it's the kind of result they get around this time that kind of keeps them up towards the end of the season and kind of drags them out of safety. But I think it's pretty worrying for County as well. We both, as we're going to talk about, Dunfermline and the Airdrie game, but obviously they picked up a win. As we mentioned earlier, with Queen's Park winning as well, it's kind of worrying for them, and they've lost their kind of firepower up front with Ronan Hale as well. So I don't think it's kind of looking good for County, but I'm just kind of bewildered how we let this County side beat us 2-0 up at Dingle, pretty much. But again, we're talking about the mid three, the kind of middle three of the table being inconsistent. But fuck me, Ross County are very inconsistent. I think they're more consistently shite more than anything else. But I mean, it's not good at all considering when you take, as I said, the results for elsewhere, for Airdrie and Queen's Park both picking up wins. It's not looking good at all, but it's good, really good run for Morton. I think I replied to Evan McFarlane's tweet and said that's a really good result for you. But again, they'll be looking at it as well. It's a really good result for them because Airdrie and Queen's Park both won. If Airdrie, Queen's Park won and Morton lost and Ross County won, I think that would drag them right into the dogfight down the bottom. So it was a pretty important win for them, but it's whether or not they keep it up. You know what I mean? I think they're probably just a bit far away for the fourth place kind of playoff. But who knows in this division? Imagine come the end of the season, Morton end up fucking finding themselves in fourth place. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll just about stay up. But again, great result for them, I would say.
I was going to say, it's like if it's like if we kept the same results with Edgery and Queens Park, and you swap it around, if it was Ross County managed to get the win, that would have put Morton tied with Edgery on 23 points. Queens Park would be on 21, but bottom with Ross County on 22, which that would have made it really interesting.
Yeah.
That would have been so interesting for the bottom, having the bottom four separated by 2 points, and of course you got the games in hand. Like as previously mentioned, Tuesday night is County against Queens Park, which could drag a whole bunch of people in.
I think that's as much as I was forgot to mention it. Enzo was on there when he was talking about the game, but that game tomorrow night, Queens Park Ross County, that's a 6-pointer. Absolutely. Ross County don't lose that. I think they can kiss the championship goodbye. I think that'll be them. But I've got a feeling Queens Park will win that on Tuesday night as well. I've got a feeling they will. But who knows? Who knows what happens in a staff league? But it'll be a big one, regardless anyway. So as you said, that one win could drag teams right back into it when they think they're safe. You know what I mean? So
it's like with like all these games in hands that everyone has. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where we're coming into April and you have teams that are still able to finish either 4th or 10th. That just seems to be the way things are going right now.
definitely.
With this league. It's just daft. It's just such a silly, stupid league. But so it'll be interesting to see how that goes on Tuesday night. But we go on to the final league game, and that is Dunfermline against Airdrie. Dunfermline last week, they moved up to 4th, and Airdrie are trying to keep away from the bottom 2 whilst winless in 5. Airdrie would take the lead 14 minutes in after one of
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was my reaction to seeing this one.
Have you seen a video that was? I think it was filmed from the Dunfermline end, like behind the goals.
I never saw that angle. I never saw that angle because it was shared through a TikTok link, and I don't have that. So and it just does not let you view it on like the web app or whatever. It's like you try and press the play button, and it's just like, no, you need to download the app. All this sort of stuff. No, I'm not downloading TikTok. But anyway, Ewan Henderson's free kick in one of the, oh my god, Denise Meme, like the ball. So it's just it's like one of those, like it's like a dink into the box for someone to run onto. And it just bounces on a sort of muddy patch right in front of Mehmet, who has dived down, and it just bounces over him. It's just what? I could not believe it when I'd seen it. I could not believe that happened at a championship level. Just, I almost died from a coughing fit when I first seen it. I heard it was bad, but
it probably made it 10 times better that it was a power keeper. You know what I mean? It was a Dunfermline howler.
Oh, absolutely, you know I mean? Absolutely. I loved it. I loved seeing that. Don't get me wrong, but I could not believe. I know Denis Mehmet has a reputation for not being the best goalkeeper at this level, but my god.
I was about to say as well, Tronty a bit of a clanger, but where does that rank? Do you think that's like the worst?
It's one of the worst I've seen in this division.
Yeah, I mean, I know we were kind of prone to. I know we've been prone to a clanger. I think we scored one. I think it was in the Dingwall season. I think it was against Hamilton. It was like one of the most ridiculous goals I'd ever seen. I think it was Mitchell kicked the ball and it hit. He kicked it right off Jack McMillan, and it was for like 25 yards. Kicked it right off McMillan, and it ended up being a McMillan own goal. It was one of the worst goals I've ever seen. But yeah, that is right up there. It's just an absolute howler. Like that's all it is. It's not even a good free kick as well. You know what I mean? Normally when you hear free kick goals, you're going, "Oh, that must have been a belter." No, this was just terrible, like so bad.
It's
But
even
aye,
weirder
it's
because he had a good
wild.
game against St Johnston,
Hmm.
and he just goes and does that. But it's just very, very funny goal to concede. But so for the rest of the first half, pretty even, I would say. Both teams having their opportunities. Second half, meanwhile, Dunfermline would have a couple of chances and look to be the team on top. But Airdrie would have a counter attack. Chris Mockery was about to go through on goal before being dragged down by Chris Hamilton. I don't think there is much debate in this one.
No,
It is a
absolutely
sending
not.
off. It is a sending off.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just completely killed the game for Dunfermline, in my opinion. It's similar to. I mean, it's not in the box, so it's not kind of similar to it, but it's against the stupidity. They Hamilton, they're already 1-0 down. You go and get a red card, and pretty much end any like possibility for your team to get back into it. You're only one goal down. You do that. Yeah, it's wild, wild challenge from Chris Hamilton. Wild decision for him to do that. But I just no complaints at all. I don't think any Dunfermline fan could have any complaints about that.
I mean, I say that, but there was a Palace fan in the Edgery TV comments saying the sending off was soft, and I was just like, no,
No, no way.
no. But I was like, after that, it was a one or two chances for Dunfermline, but it was only going to go one way, and eventually it did. Lewis McGrattan, with a low effort from 25 yards in the 82nd minute, beats Mehmet and makes it 2-0, and that's it. That
Hmm.
completely kills it. It's like, Edu did have a chance for a third right at the end, but that was it for that game. But I was like, with that and other results, Dunfermline dropped to fifth in what continues to be one of the most ridiculously inconsistent teams we've known. It's like they're coming off of back-to-back wins against Hibs and St Johnston, and then they go and do that against Airdrie.
I know, at home as well. It's wild. It's just once again, it's just inconsistency creeping in. Got to say, the second goal I thought was, yeah, albeit Airdrie had the man advantage. I thought it was really good finish for Lewis McGrattan. But with that, poor result for Dunfermline, obviously, but massive for Airdrie as well. As you said, it's got that aspect of with the Morton and County result. You could say it's massive for them. Massive result for them, especially with as you said, Queens Park winning as well. It kind of gets them out the dogfight, you could say, for a wee bit. But um, aye, just again, just that it was that red card for Chris Hamilton. Just absolutely, it just get changed. It just killed it for Airdrie. I was about to say changed the game, but it absolutely killed it for them. And yeah, no way they were getting back into it after that. And yeah, then McGrattan just goes and finishes it. And aye, it's wild, but I think Pars are probably still in the playoff hunt. Not saying Rafe are miles away off it as well, but I think they are probably the closest kind of thing we to here. But again, it's either three of them will end up in the playoff. I don't think it's kind of knocked on stone for any of them, for any of Rafe, Ayr, or Dunfermline to. I don't think it's a dead set as of yet, but aye, they'll be gutted. They'll be kind of raging about that, as you said, obviously, coming off the back of beating the league leaders 1-0 at McDiarmid and then also knocking Hibs out. You'd think that would kick them on to kind of properly go for fourth, but then they go and do that to Airdrie. Do that against Airdrie, sorry. Aye, really poor.
I did see a fairly interesting point when it comes to Dunfermline. I was coming from Dunfermline fans themselves, where it's like finishing fifth or sixth or whatever isn't the worst thing in the world, just because in fact they have a very young squad. I think it's probably the youngest in the division outside of maybe Queen's Park. But
Who is it? Who is it they signed in the weekend? And it's like their only signing over 25. They signed.
they have signed someone, and I could not tell you what his name is. I think it's a defender. I think it's a defender they've signed. But aye, so it's like it's a very young squad, and you can see that there is a project in place this time around, because it's like the Germans always said there was some sort of project, but it never amounted to anything really on the pitch anyway. But it's like with this one, you can see like there's a young side being developed, and it is a case of this season's
It
really
was
just
Graham Carey they signed. Graham
was it?
Carey for St John. Graham Carey.
Aye, that's it.
Yeah.
But aye, it's like you can see there is something being built there, and it's like these sort of this sort of inconsistency is going to happen, and as annoying as it is, there is a sort of general acceptance that it's going to happen with a team of young boys. You know, if they get the playoffs, great. It's really just a case of, it's like we said for the last few seasons about, especially last season, that Dunfermline looked like very lucky that it's like teams were, it were just teams that were worse than them.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
they weren't, because like, they were very much like on the precipice of the relegation scrap last season, and that involved one of the worst starting teams we have seen since Brecon, and a Queen's Park team that won once after January, and like lost 9 games in a row or something like that, and Hamilton Accies,
Yeah.
who got like a 15-point deduction. Dunfermline were involved in that until like it's like they weren't guaranteed survival until like the Accies got that points deduction, and then maybe like they were guaranteed not finishing in the relegation playoffs until like the penultimate week of the season. And it's just like, how have you allowed yourselves to get dragged into that?
I didn't
you have
not
been
have
really
the.
bad.
Didn't not have like a worst goal scoring record.
Oh yeah, I actually went. I remember I went through like the full Scottish football pyramid, and it's like on a goal per game basis, they were the 4th worst in the entire country. This season, obviously, they very clearly fixed that. So it's a marked improvement on last season. We'll just put it that way. So, it's just going to happen. Like these sort of periods, they're just going to happen with Dunfermline this season. So it will be interesting to see how they come about into next season, and hopefully it goes wrong, or for my purpose. But as an Airdrie, meanwhile, as you say, it's like with the results in the upcoming games, like this is a massive one for them. If they had lost, they would actually be behind Queen's Park on goal difference, and with actually no, they'd be behind by a point. Actually, sorry. And even then, it's like Queen's Park have got 3 games in hand on them, with obviously this Ross County game coming up, and I was like Morton have a game in hand on them as well, and they're 3 points ahead. So it's a massive, massive win for Airdrie. I thoughts on Airdrie? Anything to say about them?
I mean, I think we'll probably still find them down, like kind of down the end, but they're doing well to, kind of keep clear of the bottom 3 at the moment, kind of thing. But
they're in the
I
bottom
don't know.
3.
Again,
I think it'd be the bottom 2.
The bottom 2. But yeah, I think. I think they will still be down there, but I mean, I don't. They're just. I think they're still inconsistent as well. But it's just. I think this whole season has just been like you've got the top 2, us and St Johnstone, and again we've had our wobbles. Don't get me wrong. But mostly on the whole, we've probably been like on form more than the rest of the league. Obviously, we're where we are for a reason. and maybe you could see Arbroath as well. They've been pretty on form, but the rest of the league, from as you said, from 4th to 10th, all the way to the bottom, has been very, very poor. Ayr had probably their worst form about September, October kind of thing. But aye, it's wild. But I think I mean I can't call it right now to say oh they'll stay up or they'll go down. But any of them, Queens Park, Ross County, possibly even Morton, you could put them in contention as well. But I think they might. I think they'll be all right. I think Morton will be all right. But I still, as I just said, just to echo earlier, it's a massive result for them. You know what I mean? It's just whether or not they kick on, and they drag more teams into the dogfight, who are kind of above them. But aye, regardless, massive result for them. And I mean, I hope they don't kick on, but you know,
Hi, it's like you say about calling things. It's like St Johnston, Partick, and Arbroath are the only three that I can confidently say. It's like they're not going anywhere. And it's like everyone else below that is just fuck knows.
aye,
Who knows at this point? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Ayr suddenly end up in this relegation scrap and they're fourth.
yeah,
We're gonna have like the stupidest scrap towards the end of the season, and I would rather not be involved in it. It would be very entertaining for like
no,
everyone else, like looking down, just being like, "Oh, that's like that's like a 6-way battle for both playoffs going to final day." And it's like, "Oh, you can even finish bottom or fourth," and it's like, "Please
it's
don't
the
have that."
Polish. Have you seen the Polish? Is it Extra Gaza,
And the
the
extra class
Polish
at
Premier League?
Iowa is like 11
I think
points
like a
separating
Warsaw, like
everyone,
bottom of the
and
league.
it's just
Yeah,
utterly ridiculous.
yeah,
Uh, we're like the Polish league, just on a smaller scale, and have been doing it for years. But I say that the Polish league is always a bit mental. But
yeah,
so that's all the league action we have to go through when it comes to fixtures. As mentioned, Queens Park play Ross County on Tuesday, and then with the cups. Challenge Cup, as mentioned, Arbroath against Edgery. That's also on the Tuesday. Winner of that will play with Rovers in the semi-final. And then Saturday, St Johnstone are at home to Ayr. Winner of that will play against Inverness Caledonian Thistle. But also on the Saturday is the Scottish Cup. And we do still have some championship teams, as Kieran is delighted about. So we'll just go through the games involving the championship team. So Edgery, they are at home against St Mirren. That one has the potential to be a bit of a shock because St Mirren's form since that League Cup win has been diabolical.
yeah.
They've just not been good. I still think St Mirren will have too much for them, but honestly, I would be worried for St Mirren, especially with this being at Airdrie. It really could be an upset, that one. There is a West Fife derby between Dunfermline and Kelty. Kelty are towards the bottom in the League One, but they have been in a decent run of form recently. So, it's like with Dunfermline, you never know. It'll be
Yeah,
right
it would be
after
the
get.
most. It would be the most unfair thing to get
It'd
knocked
be,
out.
it'd be the most Dunfermline thing for them to beat Hibs and then lose it to Kelty. It would be very, very Dunfermline esque. Rangers, meanwhile, they are at home to Queens Park, who got reinstated following Stranraer playing an ineligible player. I made a whole separate video about it, and Enzo had like a little Twitter thread. But with that one, it's just a free hit for Queens Park. Not
Yeah.
expecting much, although them winning a second year in a row would be incredibly funny. And
Inshallah.
it would be so funny. And although I did mention this in my video, the last time a team got reinstated into the Scottish Cup, it was Inverness after Queens Park themselves had an ineligible player. Inverness went on to reach the cup final.
Aye, I
So
remember that.
Queens Come on. A trip to Big Hampden awaits. just like across the car park. And the final Scottish Cup game involving a championship team is, of course, Elgin City at home to Partick Thistle. Kieran, you must be looking forward to this one.
Absolutely delighted, Callum. Cannot wait for it. I think it's what Thistle fans have been waiting for like years and years. We've been agonisingly close. I think at times we've been a ball away from drawing Elgin away. And draws like I think it's happened a few times. But I absolutely delighted. 8:30. Leave Munns from 8:30, so it's an early start for me. I cannot wait for it. Last time we played Elgin away was 1954, and that was a friendly. So this is the first time we've played them competitively. But I looking forward to it. Another ground to tick off, and hopefully, you could say a chance, very very possible chance we get to the quarterfinals, which is absolutely perfect. But I mean, not don't want to count Elgin out. You know what I mean? It's a cup tie. Anything can happen, and I think away it might be tougher than a lot of people are expecting. But yeah, listen, it'll absolutely take it and bring it on. I'm buzzing.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes. And as I have completely forgotten once again, before we go away, a quick rundown of the table. St Johnston, they remain top by 2 points ahead of Thistle whilst having a game in hand. Arbroath are third on 37 points. Ayr are up to fourth on 32 points with a game in hand. Dunfermline are down to fifth on 29 points, but they've got 2 games in hand. Rafe down, actually no, remaining sixth on 28 points. Morton, game in hand, they're on 26 points. Airdrie are in 8th on 23 points. Queen's Park on 21 points in 9th with 3 games in hand. Ross County bottom on 19 points, but with 2 games in hand. So with the Scottish Cup being next week and there only being one championship game this week and it being on a Tuesday, we will be back in a couple of weeks when we're all back. So that is all for this week, and goodbye for now.
Catch you after.